Hey, everybody, in this episode of the AFTERBUZZ, the X-Files After Show, we're going to be breaking down Season 11, Episode 10, My Struggle For. See if that's the title of the episode or our difficulty in finding something positive to say about it. Next.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
For the last time, perhaps, on network television, who knows, the theme song for the X-Files After Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be breaking down the season finale of Episode 11 right here on AFTERBUZZ TV. I'm
Frank,
your host.
did you say Unleashed?
Unleashed. Unleashed. That's right. I'm your host, Frank Moran.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys.
I'm Lex Michael.
And I am Jim Frye.
And, of course, we're joined by a very special guest. You saw her a few episodes back. She's back again to talk about the season finale, Alyse Wax.
Hello.
Yes!
I'm in the no man's land of the couch.
The comfy couch.
It is comfy.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, folks, you can like us on Facebook, give us those 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, give it a thumbs up while you're there. And we're going to have the chat up and running. Lacretia's got her computer up, which means we can see all your chat, comment, room thoughts there. So chime in about the series in general or this episode in particular. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty of this, quick overview. What does everybody think about what may be the last new televised episode of X-Files?
I was expecting this low, just because, you talked me into it.
Yeah.
I was expecting way down here, and maybe my expectations were very low, but not so bad. Not so bad.
Thank you. That's so.
If you ever want to absolve yourself of the burden of hope, just talk to Frank Moran.
That's right. That's correct. I'm where hope comes to die.
So I'm going to be... We normally record our after show the night after the episode airs, so I have about 24 hours to watch it, process it. I just before we started recording, watched this episode for the first time, and
10 minutes ago, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to take me probably at least a day to fully process my thoughts. I will say this. Of the 4 My Struggle installments that we got going back to the short season last year, I will say of the 4, this is absolutely my favorite without reservation. I really do enjoy where we got ultimately with some caveats, some sizable caveats. But yeah, getting there was a bit of a rough and tumble slide down a mountain, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to hit a tree or not. I emerged unscathed, but at moments it was harrowing.
All right.
Well, I think we can all tell that I may have my pajamas on, but I'm not drunk this time.
You're not
so
cursing.
It wasn't
As
that
much
bad.
as you tried.
Yeah. I'm like, it really, I guess it's what they say. Go in with low expectations, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised when it's not garbage.
Alyse, how about yourself?
Yeah.
Well, I actually did see this episode yesterday, so I've seen it 3 times, 2.5 times in the last 24 hours. So I have had time to process it. And the farther away from it I get, the sadder I get, because I know it's the end. The episode itself was just a pile of garbage. It was a mess. It was a mess of an episode, but I like where we ended up, and I like that we got what I consider in X-Files land closure. And so that has helped me move into the into sadness. I'm not at acceptance yet, but.
And we did, right? We got a version this week of plot closure, because I feel like we talked last week about how we felt like that final scene, which did feel a little bit like a divergence from the rest of the episode, that final scene gave us, I don't want to speak for anybody else, tell me if you disagree, a sense of character closure.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting anything even resembling 5% of satisfying plot closure on this show. And I felt like I got a little bit of it, but Frank, your face looks grave right now.
No.
So what's up?
I would say, and I guess I could agree that probably out of the 4 My Struggle episodes, this is probably the least bad.
That's a good way to put
The
it.
least offensive.
That is
But
a compliment in Frank
I feel like
Moran territory.
that's damning it with faint praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Other than what many people had speculated that Scully was indeed pregnant, if they had inserted that little nugget into last week's episode, that could have just been a great little finale right there. Other than that, and
Yes.
never have this episode.
Oh, except for that gross episode last week. No. Still haven't gotten over
Where
that.
we drink people. Yes. Okay, but maybe at this point we should jump in because I feel like I do agree with you, but I like its placement in this story because of the story it ultimately became clear that we wanted to tell. But I feel like to contextualize that we have to jump in a little bit.
Absolutely. And I would just say, to start us off, I feel like the mythology episodes, our enjoyment of them, especially in seasons 10 and 11, have kind of, to various levels, we've enjoyed them.
They're trying.
Yes. But I feel like now to the point where this conspiracy has gotten so large and so crazy that it is such a tonal shift from what we saw for the majority of season 11 to then get to these bookends. It is such a tonal shift to get like so hardcore mythology. It just seems so like not no longer the same series anymore.
What's also so fascinating to me, as we learned in this episode, almost none of it mattered.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will just start off.
Nothing.
We see Barbara Hershey in 3 episodes for the sum total of maybe like 3 minutes in total.
You know what, though?
To nothing.
Was she there tonight?
Yeah,
she
William
blew up.
exploded.
Oh, that was her that blew up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like walks in the door. That's all we see of Barbara Hershey.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna say.
Oh, I was just going to say that I totally agree. One of the problems that X-Files has always had this problem is that there's always a lot of like hanging threads. And it's not so much that they're left hanging, it's just they're totally discarded. And a lot of the stuff I feel like we'd been setting up, it didn't matter. Like Barbara Hershey, why do you bring in her and then kill her off after maybe a total of 6 minutes on screen in the entire 2 seasons?
Yeah,
Hey, she can come back. We saw Cigarette Man blow up
Literally
as well.
disintegrate.
Yes, he was a pile of dust.
Yeah, but I don't know if she has access to the same alien DNA goodies. But,
Yeah, we also get the Jolly Man set up as some kind of antagonist.
Jolly.
Oh, Mr.
Mr.
Y.
Y.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
actually, you know what? Let's
The
go with Jolly
Jolly
Man.
Man. I
Yeah,
love
Jolly
that.
Man.
We
I
get
just
him.
call him Bannon.
And then, most importantly, Monica Reyes. This is what happens. We have her just kind
Okay.
of sitting at the fringes for many
Yeah.
episodes, and then this is it.
Yes, absolutely. But that really, for me, is rooted in the bigger issue I had last year, which was why on God's green planet would Monica Reyes join up with the Smoking Man?
Right.
And as it turns out, we didn't get an answer. So I guess as far as the show is concerned, the answer is, I don't know, just cuz. So in a world where that's true, she kind of got what she had coming.
No, that really pissed me off that the last 2 or 3 seasons of the original X-Files don't matter. We just offer just so carelessly. I hated her end there.
Yeah.
honestly,
Spoiler, she's dead.
Although if you're watching this before watching the episode,
that's your fault.
I want to
exactly.
have like an hour-long conversation about how you approach all facets of your life because you fascinate me.
Well, before we dive into the nitty-gritty and learn about all our thoughts and opinions about this episode, do you know, folks, you at home listening, wherever you may be listening to, do you want to have fun, learn, and grow in all areas of your life? If you do, then we've got the podcast just for you. Conversations with Marie Menounos Podcast Edition is hosted by our AfterBuzz TV founder and drops every Friday on iTunes. Conversations with Marie Menounos features celebrity and influencer interviews, along with secrets and tips on how to be better in all aspects of life, from health and wellness to career and relationships, finances, and more. Let our Maria be the big sister you never had. So just go to iTunes and subscribe to Conversations with Marie Menounos for free. And when you do, let her know that it was the ABTV X-Files show that got you there. Conversations with Marie Menounos Podcast Edition. Check it out. There you go. That's right. So, all right, we'll just get into this episode. We finally get to hear what life is like for William from his point of view. Finally, for how many odd seasons that William has just been kind of this dangling carrot, now we get to see him just really kind of unleash his inner monologue for a while.
This stuff was a little bit interesting to me, if only because it finally felt like, oh, you're hitting the specific reward button I've been waiting for you to hit for 15 years. Thank you very much, guys. This has nothing to do with the writing, the story structure of the episode. This actor who is playing William looks like if you made a perfect genetic trifecta between Freddie Highmore, Timothy Chalamet, and Cole Sprouse. This actor lives at the center of that triangle. That's just, it's not a positive, negative, it's not really anything. That's just what I kept thinking watching this actor, who, by the way, felt so much to me. We met this version of William in Ghoulie earlier in the season, and he felt to me, not that I disliked him in that episode, felt so much more comfortable and settled into his character in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, we get to just see him, that having a life on the lam, so to speak, because when everybody in the world seems to be wanting you for some reason, it's not really a life worth living at this point. So he kind of questions, does he want to continue living this sort of life?
Which I think is a fascinating question. And if this has been your whole life, that's going to leave scars. Even if you do discover, oh, I can turn into a weird multi-armed shark lizard monster at will, that's fun. Yeah, that's got to take a toll, even excluding the last, year or so of whatever his life has been. So that thread, I thought, at least theoretically, was pretty compelling.
We also learned a lot about his powers. I mean, it's certainly, we knew that he could kind of alter his appearance and make people think that they were seeing something else as well. But now we learned that he can make an egg hatch.
He can make people explode. He's like the walking scanners.
I know you said he was.
Those explosive effects were something. Like,
I like that.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Me, who got grossed out by swallowing people and drinking them last week, I love the exploding heads this week. That was
I feel like
Such
it
a
all.
wuss.
But it happened, and we all looked at each other, and it's not necessarily that we all had big grins on our faces, but there was a certain twinkle in all of our eyes in that moment.
Yeah, and I love the X-Men nod because, well, it is Fox, but yeah, he had very Legion-esque powers at times. Like, I was like, ooh, this is fun.
And it was as Monica Reyes and Barbara Hershey finds the other car from the guy that had picked up William, and that it was his face. It's just
I loved that.
It's just like splattered
that.
right against the window.
And that's what makes me feel just a sliver better about Barbara Hershey departing the show before we really got to know anything about really what her plan entailed or what her motivations were. If you're gonna set up a character in that way and then unceremoniously pull them from the narrative in a very abrupt fashion, at least give me something that bug nuts over the top. Like that, honestly, that really did go, for me, this says a lot about me, I guess. That went a long way towards mitigating what my frustration might have been. That whole sequence, I was just cackling to myself like a moron.
All right, let's dive right into the meat of it, which is Mulder and Scully. And the whole reason that we saw at the beginning of the season that they yet again reopen up the X-Files is because getting to William, we need to use the X-Files to help us get there. Now we're at the end of the season. Do we find that to be the case whatsoever?
I don't even know what that means.
No,
Yeah.
what?
They said the truth is going to be in the X-Files. We need to go through these X-Files, and that's going to get us to
Oh,
William.
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I have no
Exactly.
clue what that meant in context, and I still don't know.
Yeah. No, I think trying to find context and meaning in all of the different my struggles and how they relate to the much better non-myth arc episodes, it's a bit of a lost cause. I think you're going to drive yourself crazy doing that. I drove myself crazy doing that.
Like I could try and invent meaning for it, and I might hit on something that I even find personally satisfying. You might even go, Frank, might even go, well,
You're looking too deeply.
Yes.
But it would, at the end of the day, be me completely inventing something in my head to project onto it.
Well, like what I'm about to say, which is completely invented in my head, is possibly a deleted scene to explain some of this. Because, yeah, when Mulder shoots Bannon dude, and then also the SWAT guy behind him, I'm like, where did Mulder learn to shoot like this? Is this possibly the X-File he found and got an intersect in his head to be really good at shooting people? Did he become John Wick?
Yep.
Yeah.
Though, right? The what was it? The second episode this season opens with a big shootout where the two of them are getting pretty wicky.
They are both badasses this season.
Yeah.
It's like talk about getting better with age. I mean, and obviously in that time between seasons, they took a lot of shooting classes and shit.
They did whatever Captain America did between Avengers and Winter Soldier is what Mulder and Scully have been doing for the last decade and a half. Yeah, and too, I'm rewatching the whole series now with
me too.
with my girlfriend has never seen it, so we're midway through season 4, and
Back in the
trying
good
to-
old days.
just last night we watched Memento Mori, one of the greatest, for my money, one of the greatest mythology episodes of all time. It's the one where we finally deal head on with Scully's cancer. But now thinking about the episode of this show I watched last night and trying to graft the characters I watched tonight and their individual skill sets onto the characters from season 4 of this program requires, it's not impossible, does require some backbending.
Yeah, that's why I said maybe he found the X-File that gave him this ability really quick.
Well, it seems weird. I mean, Chris Carter, the creator of the show, and he's been the one responsible for these mythology episodes, both in these both previous seasons. but it just feels like if you're trying to create his, I understand you want to have mythology, kind of makes sense, but I feel like you also want to have the season as a piece make sense. That it is so tonally different. And it's not just him working in a vacuum. He still has Darren Morgan, James Wan. All of them working together. The fact that I am just so amazed that it is so disparate between those two elements that there was no trying to at least weave a little bit of it throughout the season.
I think Chris Carter was too focused on the My Struggle arc, and he was totally fine and hands off and let other writers and directors handle the other episodes that were so good this season.
I agree with you.
So
Yes.
good. And I think that's why it was so good, because it was given to other people who knew the characters and who knew what they wanted because they were fans, obviously.
Yeah.
And you know what I think? It's like my complaint about the season opener was that it felt like 24. And it felt like they were trying to put way too much plot into such a short amount of space. And I felt the same way tonight. It was Chris Carter. And I love Chris Carter's stuff. I was a big fan of the Mythology episodes in the original run of the series. Absolutely loved them. I have fallen out of love with them for these last two seasons. I don't hate them, or despise them, is probably to your level. But like especially tonight's, it was kind of a lot better than what I was expecting. But it just tonight seemed like run. The pacing was just so frenetic again, and then Scully for some reason was just completely angst-ridden the entire time, the whole time. And where did her voice go? Like, she's been hoarse for like the entire season. She's been hoarse.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people have been asking me that. I'm like, I don't know.
At least you're not dialed into Gillian Anderson's
you know what?
vocals.
She hasn't been returning my phone calls recently. I think she lost her voice.
A lot of yelling at Chris Carter.
Yeah.
No, I agree with what, like, talking about comparing it to 24, right? What finally this fourth quarter, presumably fourth and final quarter, that's a quarter's work of My Struggle. This is, okay, so Chris Carter's mythology thing that he was doing this season feels very much to me like he took what he maybe wanted a potential third X-Files movie to be and put it in a blender with everything that's happened.
And drank it last episode, right?
Last episode. But the way that pop culture now, the way that we receive these stories on TV, like 24 is a great example of it, but basically any like science fiction, action-y, procedurally show, it is all a lot of it now is so frenetic, is so it is so what we're seeing that we're not used to from this show. And then also I think what he also threw in the blender was like whatever he had been internalizing from the last 5 years or so, especially of what was going on like geopolitically. And it's fascinating to watch, and it's fascinating to see develop over the last 2 years. And I flash back to this interview that he gave pretty early in this season where he talks about how last year the limited run felt like they were learning how to walk again. Like they had to completely relearn how to make the show. And this season it felt like they figured out how to walk and they were starting to run. And that more than any other reason, forget what we got in this finale, more than any other reason is why I'm a little bummed that this is presumably the end of the X-Files.
The end of everything.
Because now that they got here, what they could have done with even one more 2-hour movie, I'm curious, of course, purely theoretically and hypothetically, but I would have liked to see where we could have gone now.
But see, with your analogy, I imagine it's like somebody that's they stumble out of the starting block a little bit, but then they pick up steam and they're kicking ass, and then just right before the finish line, they just fall right on their face.
But if they got to run the race again, Frank, after they healed, they analyzed what they did wrong, they took a stock of their opponent's strategy.
Some
Rocky
alien
didn't win
DNA
the
in
first
there.
time.
Right, they get shot in the head and rise up from the water, and they're like, I know not to get shot in the head now.
There's a lot of shots in the head this episode.
I believe that's a Nicolas Cage movie called Next.
There you go. But if you think about how much time and how much real estate was used up in that season premiere, My Struggle 3, laying out this whole other conspiracy that is working alongside the cigarette smoking man, that ultimately now just comes to nothing.
literally
No, we
exploded.
literally shot it in the face and blew it up.
No, we got rid of every episode. I mean,
Yeah.
every mythology, every conspiracy was done tonight.
But we wasted so much time even introducing a second one
And
for nothing.
What does Tad O'Malley have to do now if there's no more conspiracies?
Keep filling out that beard. That's
and
what he's
that, and
got to
that
do.
tie, man. Like, he was
Keep
really-
keep fixating on the least explosive part of whatever somebody tells him.
Go back to the chemtrails. That's
That's
what,
it.
Yeah.
I can't help but see him and think chemtrails every single time, and then I think of Lex because I know he enjoys people who love chemtrails.
I have so many thoughts about people who are into chemtrails. Oh man, I'm sure many of them are very nice.
Yeah, I mean,
But man,
Flat Earther
Coming
guys,
back.
that
that's right,
explains
guys.
a lot.
Yep. And there's lizard people living underneath our the planet's crust.
And they're in the
So,
music industry, according to Billy Corgan.
There you go.
well, what's his name? Drew something. That like no, not Dr. Drew. There's a Doctor something or other. That's definitely a lizard person who's a music producer.
Oh, good
All
times.
right.
Good times. So,
And that added literally nothing to the conversation. I walked a
Did Chris
perfect line
Carter
there.
write that for you?
Right? Like I walked a beautiful line there between not actively pulling it down, but just making noise that did nothing.
Yeah, that dialogue was a little too sophisticated for Chris Carter for this episode. The one thing I thought was at least enjoyably bad was the dialogue in this, like, unleash.
That was no, like you guys, all of you watched me. Frank, you watched it ahead of time because you're the busiest man in Hollywood.
sure.
But you
just
all
good that
watched
way.
me
Yeah.
literally double over when when Scully is on the phone with Tad O'Malley, laying out this entire potentially species-ending virus, man-made virus. The part of the sentence
Alien
he
DNA,
right,
like clearly big things to
we're
chew
all
on.
about to die.
what he gloms onto is that she uses the word unleashed. And
See, that made sense to me though, because saying it's unleashed means that it's not something that's organic. It's that the government is very specifically letting it out
like weaponizing
Yeah.
it.
and weaponizing.
You just ruined
yeah.
our argument then.
Yeah.
But to me,
Yes, that's what I do.
in context to me, honestly, it felt like a moment that was plucked out of a Darren Morgan episode and plopped down the line, which he says Mulder is our only hope. Isn't that an answer to a question where it makes no sense that would be the answer to the question?
Yeah,
I
I
forget
guess.
exactly, because she's talking to Tad O'Malley when she says that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh, will Agent Mulder go on record? Mulder's our only
only
hope. That's not what I asked you,
Yes.
Agent Scully.
now,
Can I quote you on that?
as much as I enjoy a good old Ted O'Malley appearance, ultimately I feel like this was also another instance of wasted real estate.
Oh, it was way wasted.
Like, considering how, as you explained it, like, frenetic and frantic this episode was.
Everybody was running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole
Oh, that
time.
the last chase scene through the big warehouse took 2 minutes of just, and I was thinking, it's like, gosh, when are they going to stop running and
I
running
was
and running?
exhausted watching them.
Well, and two,
Waste.
that's how I knew it.
Chase scene with William, with all the FBI is chasing him, and then you've got the final where Scully and Mulder are chasing William for that really long. That's a long chase scenes. That I would rather have just like make those much quicker and give us much more of the character stuff that we'd hope to get if this is going to be your season finale.
Remember the first episode of this season where Mulder drives like through 6 states, and we basically see it.
Yes.
Like tonight again, he's driving under the bridge, around the bridge. He's looking at his thing. I got to turn around. It's a lot of driving, There's a lot of real estate covered in just going from here to here tonight.
You know what's funny, right? On multiple levels, the mythology stuff is about getting to a faraway place as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Clay Portis in the chat here said just product placement for Ford because they kept showing it was a Mustang.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Like, yep,
Which
that's
was
how we got
weird
this
because
episode.
last 2 episodes ago he was driving a big black SUV. Where did he
Yeah.
get this like midlife crisis mobile?
Exactly. It's
only
like,
says
I'm
it-
going to be a dad again.
He only rolls it up for the mythology episodes. He was like, because I know I'm going to be driving a lot, so I want to do it in style.
Yeah.
So let's get out there. All right, Alyse, I know you've been, you get these early. You get a chance to also, for previous episodes, talk to some of the writers as well. Did you get to speak to anybody in preparation for this episode?
No, I did not. My coworker, Tara Bennett, got to talk to Chris Carter about this episode. As we now know about William's immortality, and I'm like,
Wait.
Yeah.
I thought it was more like
Yes.
a Wolverine thing where the bullet
No.
would
It was
gonna
pop
pop
out.
out, yeah.
I was expecting the bullet to pop out.
apparently William's immortal.
So it's still stuck in his head. huh?
Says Chris Carter.
The cigarette smoking man is.
But
not
you know
dead.
why? Wait. Because what was the name of the episode? It was Salvador Moon Day, which
Or the tag instead of the truth is out there.
Salvatore Monday.
which
Monday.
means
It means
savior of the world. So William's the savior of the world.
William
so
is Jesus?
he must be immortal. Well, that's why.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the same they throw that tag on the same episode where, like, yes, Frank, I agree, the Scully being pregnant thing would have fit perfectly well at the end of the last episode, and I feel like we're moving towards discussing the ending. I do like, and maybe it's just the big old softy in me, I like that Scully finally gets her miracle, her real miracle.
I like it.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the perfect bug on 11 seasons of X-Files. It really is.
Yeah, as cheesy as it was, part of me was like, all right, like, I can deal with this being the ending. The two of them together and having a baby. It's like, fuck it, I'm a girl.
Right, and like, I know, me too.
Language.
As I'm watching, oh, that's right, we got to mark it explicit now. Woohoo!
Hey, it happens at
We
least
get
once.
one.
That's right.
We're PG-13 now.
That's right, and I think
Yeah.
it's our only one per season, so we're actually good. AMC would air us. So what am I saying? So yes, as I'm watching it, I'm going, yeah, on some level, maybe, I don't know, am I supposed to be going, oh, that's corny, meh. I wasn't. I was like, oh, okay, this is actually, because not for nothing, they earned it. Like they earned. No, seriously, they earned after, especially this hour. All of this bonkers
She doesn't
nonsense.
seem to think so.
Oh no, I do. I've been saying that she was pregnant since that episode, since +1,
Yeah.
in which they have that weird pillow talk about.
Yes.
And then they have sex twice. Yay. I mean, as soon as I saw that, I was like, she's gonna be pregnant. And a lot of people were like, no, that's so ridiculous, blah blah. And I'm like, no, she is. And boom.
Right.
Mic drop.
And we know this is Mulder's.
Yes, this
Yes.
one is Mulder's.
It is his
baby.
son.
Yeah.
Because the other one was a virgin birth of sorts, I guess.
It was like the Anakin
It
Skywalker
was
of
a-
the X-Files.
It was a surgical virgin birth, right?
It was medical rape. Just
Yeah,
call it that.
medical rape
It was
is what
medical
I
rape.
termed, yeah.
Virgin birth, not even close.
Yeah, that's
look,
very, yeah.
She had sex with Mulder and close enough to the time that she thought that it was his. So
Yeah, I feel like that's a nice moment, certainly for the characters, but you can't give us like 4 episodes of these nonsense mythology episodes and then give us this little nugget at the end and go, but look, we still got this.
It's tough, right? Because I feel like if I'm Frank Moran, I'm probably thinking to myself, well, okay, you maybe stuck some of the landing. This is how you sound in my head. I guess. And you're always doing this with your hands.
All right, I like it.
Yeah, maybe you stuck the landing, but that's all you stuck, Chris Carter. And that's now that I said that out loud,
right.
I regret my phrasing.
Liking it.
But I will say, ultimately, right, when all I personally was looking for out of any piece of new mythology was exactly that. Yeah, would it have been a beautiful thing if we got like a Chinatown level story structure, like Robert Towne wrote this thing? Would that have been amazing? Of course it would have. But if all I feel like I really got out of the mythology elements of these last 2 years of X-Files is that we get that just a moment, not even that whole final scene, just the final couple of moments between Mulder and Scully. Is it like a pure 100% highest rated show ever on Rotten Tomatoes? No, not necessarily, but I got more than I thought I was going to get going in, and I'm really happy that I got that feeling.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess to learn that the cigarette smoking man is not dead, just is like
we don't know.
We don't know that.
For sure.
But I mean, that's what Chris Carter alludes to in this interview.
He doesn't come out and say it, but in Chris Carter speak, yes, he alludes to the fact that CSM is not dead.
I just let it go.
I
Just
do
let it
wonder,
go.
right? If you know you're probably not making any more, are you trying to? I'm not gonna.
Well, but that's the thing, though. You don't see him get up out of the water or something, so you can very easily, in your mind, just say, okay, he's dead. He's gone. That's it. It's done.
And I will say, like, you guys tell me if you disagree, but if we are to, if this is the last X-Files that there ever is, and we can, like, retcon, in our brain, we can headcanon out the, like, adamantium sounds when he gets shot, and we can say in our heads, okay, this is the end of the Smoking Man, and if we never come back to more X-Files, this is basically the end of the Smoking Man. Mm-hmm. This, to me, is so much more satisfying a way for that character to go than what we got in the original finale of the show. Maybe it's I could see the argument that it's overindulgent to have Mulder finally plug the architect of all of his misery, but if they're going to go that indulgent, I feel like they gave it the one piece of motivation that could actually justify that reaction.
Yeah.
What was the motivation?
The
Killing
fact
his
that he
son.
watched his son be murdered.
Exactly. I agree with you. Like, this felt better than the last one when jump out of the way of the missile, because this one, Mulder had a hand in ending the cigarette smoking man. And I don't mind the ambiguity if he's not dead or not, because he represents evil. And so evil's always with us. So you may have gotten rid of him for a while, but he's always with us. And then
I don't want to think of a world where the cigarette smoking man is always with us.
Come on, this was shakes.
Frank, you laugh now. Wait till you get home.
And then I love the fact that William, I thought I was a little bit irritated with the fact that he meant nothing. He was just this experiment, this petri dish, this scientific result of a rape, and he meant nothing. He was a miserable person, and he dies. I thought, what a terrible way. But the fact that he sacrificed himself for his
parents,
his spiritual parents, basically, and then at the end, we see that he's not dead. I could have lived without that part, I guess. But it was nice. It was nice.
But there's so much time spent with the running and the chasing that it would have been nicer to have like Scully's moment at the end where she's just kind of considers him like an experiment. I born him, I was a mother, but I never raised him. It would have been better if we could have seen more. I would have had more dialogue.
I agree with you there.
Scully processing this, talking with Mulder about it, than spending so much time running.
Too much running.
I'm still stuck on. Wait a minute. So this scene where Smoking Man shoots William, who he believes to be Mulder, did William know prior to popping up out of the water that he's immortal? Did he know?
I don't think he did.
So here's why I doubly like that. Not only was he willing to sacrifice himself for his parents, but he's already had visions of the Smoking Man, who we now know is one Carl Gerhard Busch, and he knows enough about the Smoking Man to know that he hates him, and he knows that this is the person who's made the lives of the people he's just now coming to realize might be his real parents absolute hell for however long. And then the Smoking Man, thinking that he's Mulder, says to him point blank, I need the boy. So if he doesn't know he's immortal, not only is he sacrificing himself for his real parents, but he's taking away the one thing that Smoking Man knows he needs. I like that.
And that's why them not ending up with William was okay for me, and it wasn't as sad, because it's like, okay, William made the ultimate sacrifice for them. He knew he was this experiment and could be used for evil.
And how much did you love the fact that William, as Mulder, was talking to his mother at the end and was like, he knows you love him.
Yeah.
He knows that you love him.
And did he, by the way, I'm a big Twin Peaks fan, so I could not read into it. I couldn't avoid reading into it this way. Did it not look like, it's like, how do you know? He does the Bookhouse Boys thing.
Oh, I thought that was because William's always brushing his hair back.
I'm sure that's what it was.
And that's what it was.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yes, but because Duchovny doesn't have the hair there, I just read it as the Bookhouse Boys signal.
I didn't read. No, I didn't read it. But I'm like, I had to put away the Twin Peaks stuff because I had New Obsession come in, and
I don't know how to put away the Twin Peaks stuff.
That was so observant that he was like brushing his hair out of the way.
Yeah, that's
that
what
was
he's
nice.
done all the time, and.
That, of course, yes, of course, that must be what it was. But I'm headcanoning that William is a Bookhouse Boy.
Okay, there you go. Did you guys get that? Like, how far in before you figured out that it was William as Mulder?
Right away.
Pretty quick. I looked at these guys and that's him.
Yeah.
But I loved it though. I don't even know if it was meant to be a big aha moment.
I don't think so, because I immediately, as soon as I was just like, nope, that's totally William.
The interesting thing too is that because he had visions of Mulder getting killed by the cigarette smoking man on the pier, so he's basically seeing visions of his own death the whole time, or supposed death. But the other thing, that pacing of that scene kind of really irritated me as well, because we see cigarette smoking man shoot Mulder/William, falls in the water. Cigarette smoking man walks up to the edge of the pier, and then we hear Mulder, the real Mulder, say yeah, and then he shoots him. But then afterwards he's telling Scully, I watched him kill William and myself as well too. I just felt like the pacing of that scene was weird. I felt like Mulder should have been there quicker. If he had seen all that going down, that he would have said something or done something or shot quicker. The way that scene was paced out.
That didn't bother me. I think that it was properly.
You needed Mulder not to be there, otherwise the cigarette smoking man would have stopped shooting. He needed to think he was killing Mulder, which was pretty significant. He's protected Mulder for all these seasons, always protected him, and here at the end he does away with them. Which
he likes to kill his offspring.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like his whole gem. Oh, the
Yeah.
other time
That
I
line-
doubled over
Yeah.
laughing was,
Yeah.
well, I shot my second born once.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, am I the only one in this room that was pretty confident that we'd get at least one more scene of Spender in,
I know.
This,
Yeah,
in the show?
It's like,
Yeah.
where was he?
Or I forget their names, the younger agents.
Or,
Yeah,
Miller and Einstein.
Yeah.
They went nowhere.
That's-
much like most of
Well,
this.
they just showed up in
Yeah.
the season opener. You know, they
That's-
accidentally happened to see Scully driving off the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine because, quite frankly, they were just really disappointing.
Right.
They had no chemistry together. It was just
I am just
it was
disap-
uncomfortable.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just disappointed that Reyes was taken out so unceremoniously.
yeah.
Okay, hang on. Now I've been thinking about this for about an hour somewhere in the back of my brain.
Now he's ready to process it.
No, really quickly. Jim, refresh my memory. You mentioned it earlier in this conversation. The tag, in place of "The Truth Is Out There," was a reference to a painting.
It was Salvatore Mundi, which references an Italian painting by Leonardo
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. Yeah, of Christ.
Of Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, forgive me if it sounds like I'm making reaching really far, but okay. That presumably refers to William. We now know that William is immortal. William is a savior of sorts. William then, again, I apologize if this sounds like a big ol' reach, but that makes William, their supposed son, if not their actual son, the perfect and ultimate nexus point of both of their belief systems.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
I think you're right.
I kind of dig
Oh,
it. Don't
very
get mad,
good.
Frank. I kind of dig
Keep
it.
on, keep going there. Keep going there. Let's go there.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is like Criminal Minds this last week had a joke in it where there was Aisha Tyler's character when everybody has to split up the team and she has to go back to being an FBI psychologist. And it is very clear her patients were Mulder and Scully, and that's what they were arguing about was faith-based religion versus the faith in the truth is out there.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And that's been their whole dynamic from the
Right.
beginning of the show. Was about weirdly though they both blend with science in certain ways because obviously Scully's a doctor, but her job is rooted in science, but her personal beliefs are rooted in faith. Mulder's job is rooted in scientific investigation, much in the way that Scully's is, slightly different, but same general, umbrella. But his faith, his belief is the truth is out there, and William is exactly where both of those lines intersect. You look so upset, Frank. I dig it.
No, and please, everybody in the room, feel free to
So
share
he
your
is
thoughts.
their child.
Well, he's not in. It sounds so stupid. In spirit, in theory, in philosophy, yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
Or he's a child of the ideas of Mulder and Scully, the characters.
When when Scully breaks the news about how she feels about William and
well
what he
done.
really was, and that it wasn't Mulder's child, Mulder says, "If I'm not a father, then who am I?" And I was like, that
Interesting.
just did not land for me because very rarely do we get to hear Mulder really talk about William other than the Mythology episodes. So I feel like we never really had that investment as Mulder as father.
And even there,
I
a lot
agree.
of it is directly in response to what Scully is expressing. I don't remember a lot of it coming directly from him unsolicited.
Yeah.
I took it that because he's going off about, but he's our son, Scully, our son. I took it that he was worried that without William, he would have no reason to hold on to Scully.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
Because
good.
like she was still with him because she was fighting for William and their baby, so together they had to do it. And I think that's what it really was he was afraid that losing William meant that he would lose Scully.
That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Plus, I always think Mulder always has to be searching for something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it's not his sister, then it's William, or it's whatever it was those last 3 seasons of the original series. I don't know what he was searching for there.
It gives him purpose.
And
Yeah.
that does kind of track, right?
Yeah.
Because the mythology somewhat imploded on itself a while ago, and in the time between when the show went off the air and came back, the date in 2012,
Yeah.
which when colonization was supposed to happen, came and went, nothing happened, and then all of this stuff they do address this in the show. All of the big conspiratorial, like, ooh, the government's doing this, is just stuff that's part of our day-to-day lives now. What does that mean for someone like Mulder? Yeah, he always does have to chase the truth. What is he now chasing except the question of where is our son?
Right. It's kind of like last episode. He's like, are we too old for this? Is he a relic of something that used to be, or is there still a purpose for him?
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to pay somebody to abduct their new child? Or just hide him and he's got to go find him? Every week you just come and you take them and you hide them somewhere, and then I got to go find them.
It's a new form of game night. Yeah.
Bonus points if you can turn them into stardust.
That's right.
Oh, no.
So dark and upsetting.
Damn. Mart GC in the chat brings up a good point. You know, if William is Jesus and Mulder and Scully, of course, are, you know, the Virgin Mary and Joseph, the lone gunman must be the three wise men.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I didn't realize that was ever in question.
Yeah.
All right, so as we're getting ready to wind down, what may be the last, we've heard about it, Gillian Anderson has at least said that I don't want to do anymore. Chris Carter has said, well, I could maybe see a point where doing the X-Files without her could still work. Would you be happy if this is the last we ever see? Are you satisfied? We never see another X-Files again. If everybody's satisfied with where we're at.
Can I tell you the one big frustration I have coming away, because as we keep talking about, much of the resolution that we got here, is ambiguous, but I'm okay with ambiguous resolution, and I can accept that, if the show never comes back, that's the end of the smoking man. If the show never comes back, William survives, and he's out there, and maybe they'll meet again, and maybe they won't. What I can't, the Skinner thing. The Skinner of it all really, really frustrated me, because that is in my opinion, the hardest cliffhangery type thing that we are not.
You mean
resolving.
his legs out underneath the...
And the chat's talking about it too. Like, what about Skinner?
Can I tell you
Like,
something?
we didn't
That
get
was
not
confirmation.
dead.
Yeah,
He's
dove
dead.
under.
Right.
But if we didn't have you,
Yeah.
and
we
wouldn't know
Yeah.
that, and that would be a cheap way to end
No,
Skinner.
but you
Well,
know
I never
what?
thought he was dead, though.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, then they need to address that.
It's not-
just legs hanging out.
Yes, but you don't
It's
see
the
him
Wicked Witch.
crushed. You
Right.
don't see him crushed. There's no blood. There's no visual damage. I mean, I'm sorry, if you've been watching X-Files for any
Right.
amount of time and you actually believe that killed him, then I can't help you.
My thing was more, I would have loved, I feel like much in the way that Mulder and Scully earned the final note that we got to leave them on, I felt like Skinner maybe earned a final character moment,
Yeah.
but
A thank you, maybe.
But you know
or
what?
something.
Not for nothing. If we were to go under the assumption that he is not actually dead under that car, think about the mechanics of what he did and how badass that is. Because not only did he take out the driver of the vehicle that was flying at him at top speed,
Right.
he literally dove under the car in front of that car, knowing that the bumpers of the two would save him, and he timed it perfectly, spaced it perfectly. Walter Skinner's the real hero of the show, you guys.
And that's actually the only
Just for
acceptable
Skinner.
spinoff is Skinner.
I'd watch Skinner.
yeah.
I'd watch
That's
Skinner.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel
He's
like
got
we're
such
done.
a clean apartment,
Yeah.
too.
My only sadness, though, is that I feel like if they did bring it back for something, another movie at some point down in the future, the fact that Chris Carter is, in his Chris Carter-esque way, said that the cigarette-smoking man, he's probably not dead, which means he's all going to come back, and that's just going to make everything more irritating. So anyway, what a great thought to leave this episode on.
Great.
Yes, we've got many thoughts, many feelings. Lex Michael is still processing his feelings.
Yes.
He will do his one-man after show tomorrow night after he's had proper time.
But I'm going to do it in my Frank Moran impression.
right.
Ooh, Chris Carter, coming for you.
But everybody, thanks for watching, joining us this season of the X-Files After Show. Who knows if the truth will continue to be out there? But if it is, we'll be covering it here on AfterBuzz TV. Until then, folks, thanks everybody for hopping in the chat and following along all season. You can like us on Facebook, give us those 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you want to stay in touch with Alyse, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
Where can they find you?
I'm Alyse Wax, ALYSEWAX at Twitter, and that's really the only social media I can handle right now.
All right, Jim, where can they send their well wishes and hugs and kisses to you?
You can find me at theconguy.com. That's theconguy.com. And be watching our show here on our sister network, the Popcorn Talk Network, the Con Guy Comic-Con Prep Show, and also thescareguy.com. That's where you'll find me as well. Well, we got a lot of fandom coming up. I love the X-Files, guys. It's been a pleasure doing this with you guys.
Oh, it's been awesome working with you this season, dude. Bones. Give me the bones. We're going to keep giving each other bones. Just while I'm talking, we're just going to keep doing this. Hi, I'm like, you stopped. Why did you stop?
Keep going.
I am all over social media at the Lex Michael. I also do a podcast with Tari J. Miller called Missing Out, where we talk about art, culture, experiences, how those things resonate with us, how they shape the people that we become. It's the retrospective. That's introspective. It's on Twitter at Missing Outcast and wherever podcasts can be found. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean. Come check it out. We love doing it. We love you too. Kiss, kiss. You kept pounding it. That's awesome.
And And since I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys, you can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one. And if you like stuff like the X-Files, stuff that scares you, I have a show called The Red Room. It's your horror news source. I do that on my YouTube channel at The Red Room, your horror news source. And you guys can find that, and it's also in podcast form. And I also have a voice-only podcast, Mrs. Brightside, that one of these days these guys will be on, if they can find the bright side of something. But yeah, you can find that just about anywhere.
You follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Jim will never speak to me again after the show's over. All right, folks, take care. Thanks for joining us on the X-Files After Show. We'll see you again on other shows right here at AfterBuzz TV.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
I'm Fox freaking Mulder, you punks!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.